Hi, welcome back to Said with Courage, where we learn systems thinking and complexity theory so that we can explore really tricky, complex problems like what do we do about rising suicide rates and how do we heal our attachment to the industrial supply chain. Today, I'm going to show you the hand model of the human brain. It's very handy because it will give you a really easy, clear understanding of something called flipping the lid. Powerful concept, easy to understand, simple enough for even kids to understand, right? So it was firstly just a bit of history context. It was popularized by a guy named Daniel Seigel. Okay, big brain on this guy, neuroscientist. He's done a lot of things for validation, compassion, and communication skills, especially in the space that we're in, right? So I highly recommend reading one book that he's written, especially called Mindisght. So the hand model of the human brain is named so because it makes this shape, right? Your hand makes this shape when you put four fingers over your thumb, and that actually kind of looks like your brain, right? Kind of looks like your brain sitting there. You can imagine that thumb, that the base of the thumb right here, you can imagine that that part of the thumb is kind of the brain stem, right? So it's like your wrist, coming up from your wrist is the brain stem in your neck. And then that connects to the inside of your thumb, which is your amygdala, right? Which is kind of at the core of your brain here. Often people refer to your amygdala as the lizard brain, right? It's the part that's really primitive. It's where fear and excitement and stuff like that live, danger. And then as you put your fingers over your thumb, that sort of looks a little bit like your prefrontal cortex, okay? So those fingers, that's where your language comes from, right? It's like the more advanced part of the human brain. Language, rationality, list making, you know, all that kind of higher order stuff. So abstraction, right? So that's where all of that lives. Now, the reason why this is such a cool idea, why it's so powerful, is because what happens when we get upset, right? We can think of this as a brain. This is when we're rational and going about our life. What happens when we get upset? We flip the lid. And this idea of flipping the lid, what it's really describing is that the the prefrontal cortex, this whole area, what's happening, it's actually going offline. They've done a bunch of studies on this, they've done a bunch of tests on this, and the front of your brain, when you're really upset, when your amygdala is triggered and you're in full fight or flight mode, the front of your brain actually gets less blood flow, less oxygen, right? Because there's not as much blood going to it. More blood is being directed straight into your fight or flight parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so that's why people do dumb things and say dumb things when they're upset, when they're emotional. So you might, maybe you think back on after some event or after you flip the lid and you think, man, what the hell possessed me to say such a thing to like my kid or to like my wife or my partner or like how? Well, that's how, because you literally have less access to your rational brain when you're in that state. So in crisis prevention especially, what this means for us is that it's up to us to first recognize when our own lid is flipped so that we can close it, so that we can bring our thinking mind back into action. And how do we do that? By regulating our nervous system, right? So through breathing techniques, through mindfulness practice, through practicing the work, as you know, some people like the holistic psychologist would put it, Dr. LaPera. So this closing the lid, by closing the lid, we're regulating our own nervous system, and then through mirror neurons, this is how we kind of give permission to other people to do the same thing, right? And to close their own lid as well, right? So that's the hand model of the brain by Dr. Daniel J. Seigel. Highly recommend reading the book Mindisght. And yeah, hopefully that was helpful. We'll cover much more meaty stuff like this in the future, so click the buttons. If you're really serious about suicide prevention and about improving your crisis support skills, the best way that I can help you is that I have written a series of emails starting from number one. They're in sequence, right? So all of these emails are in sequence. You can sign up whenever you want, and it will start you at email one. It's the best that I've got, right? I'm pouring my heart and soul and my blood and my guts into it, and it's all to illustrate how can we simplify the lessons of suicide prevention and the lessons of the micro skills, the counseling stuff, the techniques, the understanding of emotions, emotional intelligence, all that stuff. How can we give that to everybody? How can we give it to parents, teachers, students, mums, dads, kids, you know, everyone? So click the thing. You know what to do. See you soon.